Hey, it's Adam Grant from Work Life, a podcast from TED. This episode is brought to you by Freshworks. Freshworks believes that complexity is the enemy of efficiency. So stop wrestling with bloated, expensive service software that takes forever to implement an update, where ROI is someday, not today. You've been overcharged and underserved for way too long. Uncomplicate with Freshservice for IT and Freshdesk for customer support. And with Freshworks AI-assisted service software, you'll work smarter, not harder. Freshworks uncomplicates. Learn more at freshworks.com.
7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Sunday 7.
I'm Trish Laverty in for Jamie East this week, and on today's episode of the award-winning Sunday 7, we find out what Donald Trump's tech deal means for the UK, what Marie Antoinette was really like, and celebrate with some drunken monkeys. Plus, Will Guyatt, the Smart 7 resident tech guru, tests out Meta's new AR glasses and has a warning about flying cars. If you're enjoying our episodes, please do like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We're here 7 days a week at 7 a.m. with the 7 biggest stories on the Smart 7 in association with Metro. Before we get started, though, it was on this day in 2003 that NASA's Galileo space probe completed an 8-year mission to Jupiter. In order to avoid the probe crashing onto one of Jupiter's moons and potentially causing bacterial contamination for Earth, NASA decided to fly the probe into Jupiter's atmosphere so it would burn up and vaporise. 1,000 NASA staff gathered at Mission Control to bid farewell to Galileo. This week saw US President Donald Trump touch down at Stansted for his second official state visit to the UK. Aside from the banquets and the grand tour, the visit of President Trump also brought a significant piece of tech investment for the UK. The deal, which could see an investment of £150 billion, may also create well over 7,000 jobs. It will see investment from US tech giants including Microsoft, Google and private equity company Blackstone. Prime Minister Keir Starmer sounded delighted as he and Trump signed off on the package.
It is the biggest investment package of its kind in British history by a country mile. So thank you so much for your contribution on your part in that as the embodiment of that special relationship. And let me spell out what that means. It means life-changing investments across the United Kingdom. It's expected to create 15,000 jobs in Belfast, in Birmingham, Hartlepool, the Humber and well beyond. It means thousands of working people will feel and will be better off. And it shows the potency of this partnership.
In a week where former US Ambassador Peter Mandelson was in the spotlight, the question from Radio 4's Today Show for Science Secretary Liz Kendall was, should Peter Mandelson get credit for this tech deal?
I give credit here, if I'm honest, to Keir Starmer. You'll remember back with the first visit when he went to America, and people said he wouldn't be able to pull this off, but he did, because he focused on what the British people want and need.
While the headline numbers are huge, it's not clear as yet what the Blackstone investment will be, but they have launched a European-wide investment programme. Microsoft are committed to spending £22 billion and Google's investment is at least £5 billion to expand an existing data centre in Hertfordshire. The intention is to draw more US investment into sectors like AI, quantum computing and nuclear power, and steer clear of some of the more problematic areas like steel and manufacturing, where Trump tariffs have been causing chaos. The AI boom has been fuelled mainly by chipmaker Nvidia, who are doing so well they've taken a stake in rival chipmaker Intel. Nvidia boss Jenson Huang spoke to Channel 4 News this week, and he had a very different vision of how the AI revolution could impact our day-to-day lives in the UK.
If you're an electrician, you're a plumber, if you're a carpenter, we're going to need hundreds of thousands of them to build all of these factories. The skilled craft segment of every economy is going to see a boom. You're going to have to keep doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling every single year. And I think that you're going to be building out AI infrastructure here in UK for a decade. Just as the last industrial revolution, the reason why it came about was because you needed it. And so the industrial revolution that started here in the UK came out of need. You need it now too.
This week has seen tech in the spotlight as Keir Starmer and Donald Trump sign off on a future investment deal, but it's also seen Meta launch a new range of AI-powered smart glasses and an alarming incident with flying cars in China. It really does feel like we're living in the future some weeks, and there's only one man we call when it comes to the future of tech. That is the Smart 7's tech guru, Will Guyatt. Hey Will, what do you make of the UK's new tech deal?
It's been a great week for tech here in the UK, but a bad one for me as I've been watching all of this unfold through Turbo Man Flu. Now, the headline numbers around these AI deals are grand. £31 billion worth of investment into AI businesses and infrastructure here in the UK, which has all been clearly undersigned and supported by big US players like Microsoft, OpenAI, Google and Nvidia. And as with any story like this, there are tons of questions to ask, and we're not yet getting all the answers. But two key areas I'm looking forward to hearing more about are whether the UK's had to promise to lay off legislation on US tech businesses, and just how the UK has been chosen by America to be anointed the number 2 in the AI race when we have the world's most expensive energy by a country mile. And as you know, anything AI related needs an awful lot of power to make anything possible.
We heard some of the details just now, but it does seem like the majority of the billions is coming from private equity firm Blackstone.
A huge chunk of this investment is coming from Blackstone, and as is often the case with announcements like this one, the funding had already been previously discussed. The company had committed to investing over £10 billion on a vast data centre in North England, and it's purchased a huge site that was originally intended to create batteries for electric vehicles. Instead, this is going to be used to power the AI revolution. This data centre will contain vast amounts of computing power which will make AI magic possible. These data centres in the UK will make the whole process faster. Having vast amounts of compute power on tap will enable tech companies, health companies and others really push the boundaries in the UK, and will probably allow you to render those comedy drawings of Donald Trump on a racehorse via Grok even quicker than before.
And what will they spend that on? Investing in tech companies here?
Blackstone's money is seemingly being spent on building infrastructure, while businesses like Nvidia are committing large numbers of their GPU units, which enable computers to run AI models, and have also invested into several UK tech startups that help improve AI efficiency. The company has also committed to launching a fund for the AI startup scene, but there's no information on that yet. Microsoft says it's also supporting UK AI by relying on infrastructure here in the UK by a startup to help support its growing need for local data centres. None of these tech companies pumping money into the UK are charities, and while they may be super supportive in this initial development and growth stage of the AI revolution, it's going to be very interesting to see just how getting into bed with the US to ensure we're not left behind will impact us in years to come.
Mark Zuckerberg doesn't seem to have given up with his obsession with making us wear the internet on our faces, does he?
Absolutely not. And if anything, the new generation of Meta glasses which go on sale in the US at the end of the month are essentially a smartphone disguised as a pair of glasses. The Meta display glasses have literally got a screen in the lens which you can use for video calls, browsing the internet, watching video, or getting directions overlaid like your Robocop or something like that. And as with the other Meta glasses, they have cameras on board ready to capture everything you can see as video or photo, but those are currently limited to 30-second clips.
Surely there are going to be huge data protection issues with these glasses.
There are huge concerns around these glasses, which Meta have been actively trying to calm and assure people over the last few years. But given that hackers managed to turn the less powerful screenless model into some kind of facial recognition system, which literally hoovered up images and data from all of those that walk past people wearing them, this issue is only going to get bigger and perhaps more serious when more of us start using these to make video calls in the street. While you're speaking to somebody on a video call and they're projected in front of your eyes, you are beaming the view that you can see, which of course then means lots of people walking past you going about their daily lives are inadvertently included in your videos, and possibly without their permission. But as is the way, these kind of serious concerns don't ever seem to stop tech companies from making stuff happen.
And does the tech work?
For all the concerns I've got, the tech really does work, and at $799 at launch, there is no UK price yet. Zuckerberg's insistence of keeping his own hardware development division at significant cost to Meta does seem to be paying off. Google may have launched the Glass 12 years ago, and the tech has certainly moved on since then. Gone is the space age aesthetic, which makes it look as though you're walking around with a Star Trek prop on your face, and we've now got a pair of Ray-Bans. these Meta display glasses do look like a typical pair of glasses, and the visual overlay on the screen is of sufficient brightness and resolution to ensure you won't give yourself an instant headache trying to handle video being put over what you can see from your eyes.
Finally, we're getting used to the idea of robots and high tech, but it seems the world of flying cars may have the same road safety issues that normal cars do. What happened in China this week?
Flying cars were always going to take a lot of getting used to. But for me, the idea that I can get annoyed waiting on the M4 just outside of Swindon and can blast off into the sky sounds like a brilliant idea. But my electric Renault 5 isn't the kind of thing I'd be liking to fly at 1,000 feet above Wiltshire. Now, this crash between two flying cars at an air show in China will probably set back the industry by many years, as two Xpeng Aero HT prototypes hit each other at rehearsals for the Changchun Air Show and was caught on camera. The two cars hit each other in mid-air and resulted in one injury, as one of the vehicles caught fire on emergency landing. These Xpeng flying cars take off and land vertically and will sell for around £250,000 when they launch. The Chinese company claims it's already got 3,000 orders. Well, make that 2,999, as I know Jamie East has just cancelled his.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, in association with Metro, we meet a French queen and find out more about the drunken monkey hypothesis. With protests in France this week over austerity, it seems like the perfect time for a new exhibition at the V&A Museum on the legendary French Queen Marie Antoinette. She's probably most famous here for her "let them eat cake" quote, which was attributed to her during bread shortages in Paris in the 1760s. However, it turns out she probably never said that, and French literature professor Seth from Oxford University says it's fascinating to learn more about the French icon.
She's a very modern figure in many ways, because public opinion attacked her quite often for things for which she wasn't responsible. And whilst she was careless and naive, she certainly wasn't the monster she was made into by some contemporary press outlets. There were horrible caricatures against her, for instance, and pornographic texts and so on.
As you may recall, things didn't end well for the Queen, and she was executed in 1793 by guillotine during the French Revolution. The exhibition, which opens on Saturday at the Victoria and Albert Museum, is the first dedicated to the iconic French Queen and includes about 250 different objects, including some that have never been seen outside of France. The items include some of her famous silk slippers. She was reported to have received 4 new pairs every week, and one of her gilded armchairs made of walnut and embroidered with her initials. Professor Seth says seeing all of the items together in context provides real insight.
It's very moving because you discover that Marie Antoinette is like a lot of us in that she has passions, there are things which interest her. The exhibition is very good, obviously, on the fashion side. She's such a style icon, yet she's also a human being writing very moving letters, for instance, when she's in captivity. So she's a complex woman, and I welcome the occasion for us all to see a much more human individual, probably, than the sort of cardboard cutout which we've often been told about.
There's long been a theory among scientists that humans are not the only creatures on Earth who enjoy a tipple. As far back as the year 2000, a professor of integrative biology at the University of California at Berkeley, Robert Dudleym, was suggesting that chimpanzees might be getting quietly drunk in the trees of Uganda. Now he's been able to complete an official study that examined the behaviours of chimps and their love for consuming figs and fruits from plum trees that just happen to have an alcohol content level of around 0.3%, which is about the same as kombucha. Professor Dudleym says the research proves that our attraction to alcohol may date back to our ancestors' fruit-eating habits.
So the hypothesis suggests that they are preferentially selecting fruits that have a fairly high alcohol content. We have inherited an ancestral bias that associates alcohol with nutritional reward. We forage for fruits in the jungle, and in the concrete jungle, we go down the supermarket aisle and pick up alcohol. My father was an alcoholic, and I've always had an intense personal interest in this question as to what are the origins of self-destructive behavior. One goal of the drunken monkey hypothesis, of course, is to facilitate basic research into the biology of alcohol exposure. And ultimately, we would all love to have a really straightforward explanation and, of course, cure for this disease.
Still to come on the Sunday 7 in association with Metro, we hear about 3D printed mussels and meet a baby bonobo.
Right after this. From building a business to building an ecosystem to building a legacy. Overcome tomorrow's challenges together with our industrial partner ecosystem. Transform the everyday with Siemens.
Welcome back.
We've heard quite a bit about AI so far this week, and we know that the use of ChatGPT for college students is a tricky topic. Universities spend quite a bit of money on software to detect AI and plagiarism in student papers, and OpenAI have even created a new study mode that is intended to help students walk through questions step by step rather than just popping out pre-prepared answers. But a university in America is taking a slightly different approach. Ohio State University has decided to lean into AI, and it will include a course in generative AI for first-year students to help them master the technology. The initiative is called AI Fluency, and the objective is to give students practical experience that will help them when they graduate. Kevin Richards is an assistant language professor at Ohio State, and he says the classes could have real value for students.
I hope that they learn how to use it effectively for brainstorming, for organising thoughts, but they don't replace sort of their critical thought with it.
CBS spoke to Louis Van Aan, the CEO of language app Duolingo, about the initiative, and he says that it's important that students are prepared for a world where AI will be everywhere.
Having something in your resume that says something about AI would give you an advantage, because a lot of our work is being done this way.
Science writer Mary Roach has 7 New York Times bestsellers to her name, and she specialises in a blend of science and humour, dealing with topics like science and sex, or in the book Stiff, What Happens When You Donate Your Body to Science. She has a new book out this week called Replaceable You, in which she dives into the ever-expanding world of transplants and augmentations available to modern humans. It was inspired in part by a friend of hers who has the condition spina bifida, and her ability to walk was compromised by a twisted foot. However, when the woman wanted to have the foot removed and replaced by a prosthetic limb, surgeons were reluctant to do so. That got Mary thinking about what bits of us are and aren't replaceable, and she spoke to NPR about what she discovered about a new use of 3D printing for the human body.
What people were working on there was trying to print muscle in a way that the alignment of the cells would create muscle that had the specific function that muscle needed. In other words, a heart. The heart needs to move in a kind of twisting motion. It twists as it pumps, so you've got to print the cells in a helix shape, which is different from, say, the hamstring, would be kind of parallel, or the shoulder muscle, they're in a kind of a fan-like shape. So you're not just printing generic muscle, you have to print it in a very specific way to achieve the function that you want it to be doing. No one is printing whole organs. That's way off in the future. But one of the people there had managed to print a single ventricle that was pumping in a mouse.
We heard earlier about boozy chimpanzees in the forests of Uganda, but there was another reason to celebrate this week with the news that a UK zoo has seen the birth of a rare bonobo monkey. Bonobos are the apes that have the closest connection to humans, sharing 98.7% of their DNA with us, but they're also on the red list for endangered species, with only about 20,000 left in the wild. Twycross Zoo in Leicestershire is part of a European conservation programme, and this week saw the arrival of a baby bonobo. Dr. Rebecca Biddle is the Chief Conservation Officer from the zoo, and she says it's a really important moment.
These bonobos, in the wild, they're only found in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There could be potentially only 15 to 20,000 of them left. So what we're doing here at Twycross Zoo, but also what we're doing with our partners in the field in the Congo, is really important for their preservation. They're so related to humans. They're one of our closest relatives. So I think, it's really important that we support them in the wild and we ensure that they persist on this planet with us humans.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.
AI is transforming customer service. It's real and it works. And with Finn, we've built the #1 AI agent for customer service. We're seeing lots of cases where it's solving up to 90% of real queries for real businesses. This includes the real-world, complex stuff like issuing a refund or cancelling an order. And we also see it when Finn goes up against competitors. It's top of all the performance benchmarks, top of the G2 leaderboard, and if you're not happy, we'll refund you up to $1 million, which I think says it all. Check it out for yourself at fin.ai.